Hello, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Douglas Johnson. I am a yoga teacher at the advanced 500-hour level. I'm an ordained minister, kirtan artist, and musician, amongst other things. And today I wanted to talk about the statement, "You are source." Before I get into that, I do want to thank the community, and it is a community that makes these talks possible without a paywall, and those are my patrons over on Patreon. If you'd like to join that community, check out the links below. And I am trying something new right now. I'm actually writing an essay about the same topic and posting it underneath the video on Patreon. So if you'd like more, if you're interested in sort of a deeper dive or less off the cuff presentation, then check out that essay over on Patreon. Again, the links are below. You can also help out by liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting, and you can leave a one-time tip on PayPal or Venmo. And you can also help out by shopping merch, links at the front and the end of the video. Okay, you are source. So you might have heard that term used before in spirituality. Source is often used in place of something like God, and it is basically trying to denote the source of all that there is, the source of everything. So again, in modern spirituality, it's not an uncommon term to hear. And then some teachers will say or have a teaching that you are in fact source. And this I find comes up quite a bit in the law of assumption community, which is a metaphysical teaching that basically states that you don't get what you want. It's a type of manifestation philosophy, you might say, or metaphysical understanding of reality. Like, why is reality the way that it is? And do we have any real influence over it in a spiritual sense, not a physical sense? Of course, I can grab a stone and toss it. I'm having some kind of effect. But doesn't it seem or feel like certain people just have like a charmed life or charmed experience? Others seem to constantly struggle. And one explanation for this from a spiritual perspective might be karma, good or bad karma. But there are others who have explored this topic and said, well, actually, it's your thoughts and your way of being. So one of these individuals is Neville Goddard, and he came up with this teaching that is today often called the law of assumption. So what you assume to be true, what you are, is what will manifest in your reality. So this teaching has, you could say, layers to it. So at its deepest, it very much overlaps with the type of spirituality that I have learned and that I teach others. And in the end, this type of spirituality basically says there isn't really a separation between you and what we call the divine. So in A Course in Miracles, the ultimate teaching could be said to be God is, and that everything else outside of that is, you could say, provisional. It's not ultimately true for all of eternity. The only thing that is true for always and all time is that God is. It's not God is good or God is great or God is anything. It's just God is. Okay? So from that perspective, if we go back through our being and we let go of our thoughts, we let go of our identity to our sense perceptions, our body, our emotions, then we end up with the I am being. And in the Bible, God says, I am that I am. So for many spiritual teachers, the I am is the ground of being. You can't get any further than that, right? If I say I am this age, that will change. If I say I am a human being, well, I'm not going to be a human being always. Eventually this body will pass away. So what could be said that is eternal, that is always true? And it's just I am, which again, I often express as beingness. Some teachers might also call it presence. So from that identity comes everything else. So from a law of assumption perspective, like I am wealthy, or I am healthy, or I am happy, or I am loved, whatever we add on to that comes, but first is that ultimate ground of being identity, which is just the I am. So we can say that the I am is the source of everything. And when we understand that, we can change what we might call the character. So the character is the ego identity, the personal identity that's running around and doesn't really have a substance. It is conditional and it's constantly changing. So from a law of assumption perspective, when we can get back to the source, right, the I am, we can change that which is not eternal and that which is constantly shifting and moving and changing, which would be our circumstances. So I may be sick right now and I can say I am sick, but if I can change that and change that identity within myself, then ultimately what law of assumption teaches is that that will shift outwardly. So the other day I was thinking about this, and that word source really hit me hard. That source, you are the source of everything. And I thought about this in terms of our own happiness and well-being. And most of us are constantly looking outwardly for these things, for confirmation and for satisfaction and various things. Like they say that we as human beings, we need love, we need community, we need food, we need shelter. Many of us want abundance, right? Many of us want good health. So how do we get these things? The standard view, the egoic view, is I go out into the world and I make a lot of effort. I work, I try, I strive. And I'm not going to say that that doesn't work, but what many have experienced, and I've experienced myself, is that you can get what you want and it doesn't always fill that hole. It doesn't always actually satisfy you or make you feel content or happy or peaceful, which is, I would claim, really what all human beings are really looking for. Most of us want money or power or love because we think it's going to fulfill us. It's going to make us feel whole. It's going to bring us peace of mind, okay? So control, power, money, affluence, fame, all these things are usually a means to an end. It's something we want to feel a certain way, and we think that manipulating the world is going to give it to us. Well, many people, myself included, have discovered over time that that's not necessarily true. You can get what you want outside, and there's still that hole or that gap inside. So law of assumption teaches us that the way to really get what you want is, again, to understand this statement that you are really the source of all things. If you understand that you are the source of everything, then what you want to do is learn to give yourself that which you feel that you lack. Now, according to the metaphysical principle of law of assumption, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. So once you've given yourself whatever it is that you are seeking, then you are someone who has that. You are loved, or you are abundant. You feel that, the truth of that inside of yourself. You already are it, even if in the physical, it doesn't reflect yet. But the interesting thing about the teaching is it says that it will reflect outwardly eventually. There may be like a sort of a gap or delay, but it will eventually manifest. What's most interesting to me in playing with these techniques is what I found is when you really apply them properly, you don't really care whether or not it shows up in physical reality. And this is a really nuanced but very important point from my perspective, that when you really use the techniques of manifestation, and there's billions of them. I don't really want to teach techniques or get into it. You can look it up online. There's scripting, there's visualizing, there's SATs, there's robotic affirming, all kinds of different things. And it's not that all manifestation teachers agree. Not even all law of assumption teachers agree. But I'm just sharing my experience with it. When I really am successful in giving myself that which I want, in a sense, I don't want it anymore because I gave it to myself. And the irony is then it shows up in the world. So, as I said, the way you give it to yourself is really in imagination, or what you might say in your own mind or your own inner world. And again, different techniques work for different people. What you want to do is get comfortable, relax, and allow yourself to imagine having that which you want. What would it feel like? So let's say that you want abundance. What would it feel like to be really abundant? Can you just allow yourself to experience that, to feel that? What would it be like? You know, pretend. Children are so good at this. I think children are probably natural manifestors, and we often educate that out of them. But I think when we're young, we have this ability really well to imagine things that aren't necessarily in physical reality. And then as we get older, we sort of lose it and pay more attention to what's actually real, with exceptions. Many people who have really transformed the world are people who are able to hold onto their imaginative reality in the face of the physical reality telling them otherwise. And again, this can often be called faith. So you are source. You're the source of everything. This is a teaching that I wanted to share with you because it just sort of hit me really hard. What if we stopped looking out there for what we feel that we're lacking in here? Love, appreciation, whatever it might be that we're looking for. What if we knew ourselves to be the source of these things and we simply give it to ourselves? This is something that I've been aware of for quite some time in one form or another, even before I knew about law of assumption. And I've actually recorded talks about this topic in the past. So it's not entirely new, but what I find is certain concepts and ideas get refined over time. And as my understanding deepens, I can share and hopefully share with more depth and more understanding. So for me, this is an extremely powerful concept. And what you do is you shift your attention and your energy from trying to move the physical reality to how you want it to be, which could be described as rearranging chairs on the deck chairs on the Titanic. Well, that's not so dire, but it's sort of like you're rearranging things, but the big issue you're not really addressing. And so again, you might actually have success rearranging physical reality, but what you will likely find is that you're still lacking something. And so you might try getting more, like more love or more wealth or more power, whatever it is that you were looking for that you thought was going to solve your problem. When it doesn't, you'll probably go for more. And I think this is what very often leads to what we might call greed. Someone just doesn't know how to fill that emptiness that they feel inside. So we can do that by knowing that we are actually the source of all things. Now, knowing that, not just intellectually, but actually experiencing that is a spiritual experience. Now, from what I've seen, many people who have worked with law of assumption have actually experienced this in one form or another. They actually know themselves. But this is actually very deep spiritual understanding. And this can be gotten to through meditation and other means, yoga nidra, working with a teacher one-on-one, doing inquiry, things like that. But this is where these concepts really become very powerful. When I really know what the I am is, and when I really know myself to not be separate or different from the I am, and I say I am source, I am the source of everything in my life. And the perhaps difficult part to accept for many people is that would mean I'm also the source of my own suffering and the things that I don't like in my life. And I don't want to get into a debate about that today. We can discuss that another time. But many people, again, they'll have a hard time with that. And they'll say, no, I didn't choose this, I didn't choose that. But what these teachings tell us is, on some level, whether that be unconsciously in this lifetime, or perhaps karmically, or again, perhaps even on some soul level, we have indeed selected what we're experiencing. And again, this takes a little bit of a perspective beyond what we see with our senses or experience. Many of us, again, we just want to see things as they are and draw conclusions. And if that's what you want to do, that is perfectly fine. But that is not really what metaphysics and spirituality are about. Metaphysics and spirituality, and that's what I'm interested in, and that's what I'm trying to share with you. These are about the unseen truths, the unseen laws, the things that are behind physical reality that are actually causing things to be the way that they are. So physics talks about, certain laws of physics, but what is it that dictates these laws? What is beyond the laws that's actually making them into laws of physics? This is where we get into the metaphysical. Is it God? Is it source? Is it you? What is it that is behind our senses and our sense perceptions that's actually dictating what goes on? So for me, when I had this realization, you are source, and again, I took that and it really hit me. You are the source of everything in your life. So again, if you want to fill a void or a hole, and it's really only perceived, it's not that it's really necessarily there. But if you want to change that, if you wish to change that, then give yourself that which you want. Once you have it, you are someone who has that thing. Again, inwardly, outwardly, it may not appear that way, and that's okay, because there can be a gap or a delay. But you give yourself that thing, and again, what I've found most interesting is when I've successfully done this, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it or that I'm always able to do it. When I have felt so good. I have felt a million times better than I did when I was in that state of lack, even before anything shifts on the physical plane. So Wanted to share this with you. As always, I share with the intention of this being helpful. Again, if you'd like this sort of written out in an essay form, it's not the exact same talk or information. When I talk off the cuff, things come out differently, but my written thoughts on the subject, they'll be below this talk up on Patreon, so you can check out that link. Anyway, as always, I'd love to hear from you. Please comment, let me know what you think. Try these out, come back, let me know what your experience is. And you can help on YouTube by liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing. You can help even more by becoming a paid patron over on Patreon. You can tip me, you can buy some merch. And if there's some way I can help you, please reach out. Until next time, namaste. Have a beautiful day.